Hello and welcome to 60 Minutes or Less, a new podcast from Birth to Cake for Breakfast. I'm Andy Hughes and... is it a new podcast anymore? Maybe we can drop that now. Either way, we're 11 episodes in, and for this new episode we welcome Matt Korvette, choice shouter in Headwrecker's Pissed Jeans. Notorious noise punks with almost 20 years in the game, Pissed Jeans first melted this particular brain over a decade ago with a kooky video for the insanely catchy False Jesii Part 2, a song that is weirdly a go-to shower song for yours truly. From their second album, King of Jeans, released in 2009, they've since followed it up with another 4 full-length records, their latest, Half Divorced, released in March 2024 by a notable tastemakers Sub Pop. An invigorating aerosol, there are songs about helicopter parenting, massive personal debt, and finding the cons in every inch of the universe. A month after releasing Half Divorced, we sat down with vocalist Matt Korvette ahead of a sold-out show at the Brudenell Social Club in Leeds, where we talked about their new album, sobriety, eating on the road, and crossing the Canadian border when your band is called Pissed Jeans. Enjoy yourself and be sure to tell all your fellow Pissed Jeans fanatics. It seems to be a common theme for us to speak to American bands coming over and for them to talk about the Brudenell and to talk up the Brudenell. Obviously, we're at the Brudenell today. You've just had, as we were discussing, your long, arduous journey to get to Leeds today. Do you have any memories of the Brudenell, or do you have any UK venue highlights as a band or personally?
I mean, I really have no lowlights, I'd say.
That's actually question 2. But
yeah, truly. No, I mean, the Brudenell, it feels like you don't often go to a place where there's, like, love baked into all the little details. You know, it's a little disarming almost. Sometimes you might have, like, an adversarial, relationship with a venue or, like, the club staff. And that can lead to, like, fun things, too. But here it just feels like a happy family that's, like, welcoming you in, which is a nice feeling, but it's just an unusual feeling, too.
I think as well, saying baked in, they sell pies literally
right
around the corner. You can watch the football.
I had one earlier. It was delicious.
Oh, did you?
Just
yeah.
what I needed, yeah.
And I imagine food on tour. I heard in Europe it's a bit better, when you go somewhere and the meals are all put out for you and everyone's really accommodating. But I imagine in the UK it's not quite as...
Well, I'm used to the US where it's fend for yourself, So anytime we do get any bit of hospitality is always very welcomed. I mean, really, on like tour is just like rest stops 80% of the time, and that's dismal anywhere, But we just don't tour very long, so that's how we put up with that sort of culinary lifestyle.
Yeah, I imagine like those 3 years of Metallica tours that they used to do. If you're hitting a truck stop every town, those on the stomach must be a wee bit.
Oh, yeah, no, especially like as you get older, like my pipes are so sensitive, like I can tell like I had a store-bought cupcake or something, just by the way my body's screaming at me, hours later. So it's a pitfall we've had to keep an eye out for on this trip.
And certainly over here, like similarly, we're getting as bad with the food as America can be. And I was going to say, you've obviously alluded to it a little bit, but on the new record, you've got a song called Everywhere Is Bad. And I was going to say, have you, encountered any notorious shitholes whilst you've been on your touring, other than adversarial places that are a bit...
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, I feel like as a band, we're in a pretty cool spot where we're like not too big or not too small, like rooms that fit like 300, 500 people. That's kind of like optimal to see a show. You're never so far removed and it never feels like you're one of 20 people, like it feels like a really sweet spot to be in, for enjoying a show. So I'm lucky. Yeah, I mean, we've played dumps in the past. Which can be charming, but not recently. No, we're like pretty lucky at this point.
You're at the sweet spot.
Yeah. We just can't make any new fans. That's what we have to watch out for.
It's tricky. Yeah. You're kind of stuck. Yeah.
Right.
Some of the new records I encountered when I first listened to it. It seems like a lot of it's more straight up punk. Was that an intention when you were going into the record to make a record where like a number of the songs were going to be like straight up 2 minute?
A little bit. I mean, like we always just try to write songs, and then a record kind of shows itself from that. And I guess one thing I was interested in was having songs that would be fun to play live, that like people would enjoy, maybe as a reaction to having all this time sitting around not being in any sort of live communal event, that the idea of doing something that would be fun to share in person was a lot more appealing than like, you know, a masterful, experimental epic of studio prowess, you know, which I appreciate that style too, but we just want it to be more immediate. And I also feel like pushing back on the idea of that we're older and this is like our 6th album, and this is normally when bands go off into more like esoteric, regions. It seemed fun to pull back even to more basic, you know, and give that a whirl.
I can't remember who we were speaking to, but I remember they said that, you know, it's more interesting to do the songs where you are restrained and it is a lot more simpler, because then sometimes, you know, it can be more about the song than playing 6 solos and
I want like our personality to shine, you know, more than our technical prowess, for sure. Because that's just what I look for in music too, is someone's interesting perspective, or like only they would say or do that, you know. That's special, even if the music is something that you could easily play, you know. It's not about skill level, it's just more about hopefully memorability.
And on that, I mean, you know, I'm sure it was the same if you were playing an instrument when you were a kid. I'm sure the stuff you want to learn is the stuff that you actually enjoy and that's quite easy to pick up, rather than the sort of stuff that you'd have advertising on YouTube or...
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is like they're all such good musicians that like we can't let them play music that's that difficult, you know. We have to pull them down to you know, simpler stuff, which is tough, because it's tough to have someone who's a great player play one note over and over, but sometimes that's what's best.
Yeah. So I was interested in something you talked about elsewhere, and it kind of ties in with this, about borrowing ideas or being inspired by other bands or other records, and then kind of putting it through a Piss Jeans filter, and then, you know, creating something entirely new. It must be quite cool to be able to go, yeah, we are going to nick that riff, or we are going to nick that, but because, like you said earlier, you've got your own personality, but that sticks to it. So is that quite a cool thing that you can have, where you're able to do that? Yeah, no,
I mean, I don't know, I was actually talking a few years ago to like Mudhoney about that, and that was kind of their thought process, was that you can try to rip stuff off and it always just turns into them no matter what. And yeah, we're just such big music fans in general that there'll be like a moment in a song or like a part or a sentiment that like, yeah, we have that too, like let's do our version, you know. I'm sure that's maybe that's being more truthful than like other bands would like, you know. Everyone likes to think that they created it all from scratch, but we're all just influenced by whatever, you know.
And I think sometimes when you start getting into different records and such, you go, oh shit, that's that, you know, drum riff or whatever from that other record that's so, you know, famous, but I never would have noticed because I've only just started listening to this sort of genre, or, you know, what have you.
Right.
Has there ever been, like, in that respect, any sort of car crashes that you've encountered where you've all said, oh, let's write this sort of song, and then it's gone a bit...
I mean, the thing that happens is more like we write something and it sounds like a band trying to sound like Piss Jeans, and then it's like, no, this is not doing it, you know, and we kind of have to be our toughest critics, which we always, I mean, everyone probably is of whatever they're doing, but it's okay to, like, have those misses, you know, like we just kind of have to have a certain number of ideas that don't go anywhere so that we can pull out the ones that we think are special.
And that's a good point, I suppose, isn't it, really? Like, you don't want to just rest on your laurels, so to speak, and make, like, a Piss Jeans light.
No, I mean, it's tough, but we also don't want to be so dramatically different from the Piss Jeans people already know and love, you know? Like, we want to find a ground that's interesting and new, but also makes sense for what we do. Like, we're not going to suddenly replace the guitars with synths, you know, which plenty of bands have done to varying success, but that's just not how we're going to tackle things.
Although that does sound good. I mean, you know, next record.
Now we will, now that I've already officially sworn it off.
And you can have Piss Jeans light as well. You can have that. The vocals have always been something that I've really loved. I'm always, well, not singing, but listening to False Jesii Part 2 in the shower.
Right.
Vocally, it's just, I think it's brilliant.
Thanks.
The delivery, obviously, is one thing, but also the vocals themselves and the lyrics are another thing. And on this record, it's packed with them. And on $62,000 in Debt, I just really love it's a simple premise, but it's also like, a terrifying thing that a lot of people are stuck in.
Right.
But it's so funny that by the end of the song, it's only been chipped away. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
What sort of, or where rather, do you get, your inspirations for that sort of thing? Is it just a case of cataloguing things as you're going along, or?
Yeah, I mean, I just try to jot down ideas as I have them. If it's like a song title or like a chunk of a phrase or something. And then, I mean, this is some of the most fun of being in a band is then when we're working on music, I kind of thumb through my little index and see if anything like feels like it makes sense with the music. And when something feels like it clicks, that's like very exciting. So yeah, it's all just generally things that are like worrisome to me or like frustrating or like things I'm scared of. Those all feel like ripe territory to like make into a song.
And do you think that there's like some catharsis in that? Because I know the record title could, be perceived a few ways. Do you think there's some catharsis in saying this is something that keeps me up at night or what have you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it's like if you have a shameful secret, it has a lot of power over you. And if you just air it out, it loses a lot of that power. Like if you're embarrassed about how you look or a relationship or money or any of these things, just kind of, it's probably like, how comedians operate in a lot of ways is you air some level of your dirty laundry, probably with, hopefully some level of artistry so it's not just a diary entry. And then you can kind of be free of its power over you a little bit. That's like that definitely has felt that way for Piss Jeans for me.
For sure. And I mean, I suppose as well, by the end of the evening, you're completely free and ready to move on to the next terrifying prospect.
Exactly.
So we spoke with your bassist Randy about Junk Time.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know if you saw it or I don't know if he's ever said it, but he said it was one of the best things you'd assembled as a band. And that it was, what did he say? A song that was in its own lane. And he said vocally, when you had your first run through in the studio, it brought a tear to his eye.
Oh, wow, that's great.
And yeah, it must be a trip to be able to, as you say, you're 6 records in, to be able to knock them out, an album track like that rather than even a single.
Yeah.
I mean, hardly a question, but that must be a trip.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I mean, like, also, it was like hard work, like it's not, these things aren't necessarily coming easy at this point,
Sure.
But then it's more rewarding almost, that like, because while they were recording the music for that, I was sitting in like a quiet room, just staring at like, a Microsoft Word document and trying to put it all into place. And then when you get it somewhere where it feels good, it's like extremely rewarding, and then sharing it with the bandmates and hoping they all like it too. It's exciting, even though we've been friends for so long, it's still that first date energy sometimes, where like we're all a little vulnerable maybe. It's a good feeling to have. I guess it shows you're like doing something that might matter or resonate, it's not safe and boring, hopefully.
And rather than just also being like rocking up to the studio or wherever you put the record together and just being like, lyrics are done, I'm sorted. Crack on.
Yeah, no, it's fun to try to put. I mean, I also do kind of put things off to the last minute as far as the final assembling. It's like I think some of us have that. If you have a report 2 months from now, you'll wait till the night before, and cram it all together. But that's kind of how it works best for me too.
So similarly, Randy also similarly more in the sense that it's not really a question; it's more just something that Randy said. He said, once you're comfortable and consumed, that as a band, Piss Jeans are ready to give you an unexpected chop in the throat, which obviously ties in with everyone's wrestling fandom as well. Comfortable and Piss Jeans, I wouldn't say is normally something that would be said in the same breath, unless it was uncomfortable,
Right.
But is that kind of like, again, is that similarly something that you can be proud of in the sense that you're like we could come from this angle or we could come from that.
Yeah, I think it's fun to try to do something unexpected. I mean, I don't think what we do is like shocking, but a low version of that, you know, like, and I like the idea, like, we could, you know, be a band that jumps into the crowd and immediately is like bopping into everyone, and there's like value in that, but to me that feels like an easy route. Like, if any single person jumps into the crowd, they'll get a reaction of the same, there's a guy in front of me, you know. Whereas if we can do it with like the words and the way the music is shaped and like the musical choices, that's like really exciting to kind of subvert people's expectations or do something that wouldn't be expected and just fun or off-putting. Yeah, I really love that.
And on that as well, I mean, obviously someone might see the name, hear the music. Do you ever get people saying, you know, that was completely different to what I expected if they came for a first time, or?
Yeah, I mean, probably at some point. Yeah, it's like it's hard to really gauge who is listening to us. You know, there's like old fans for sure. I mean, I'm learning about all the people who have been listening for a long time, and it's just so like wonderful, and like how, you know, it's hard to react to such nice things sometimes. You know, it's much easier to react to someone who just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
You know, and be like, fuck that guy. Whereas instead it's like, wow, people are really so nice and thoughtful, and I'm just lucky to be, you know, noticed by these like discerning ears that exist out there. So it's been like something I don't want to take for granted, I guess, now. Because who knows, you know, like I didn't know we would be making 6 albums and that it would be something like this that I'm really psyched on. I mean, I love listening to it myself, you know. So
is that something that you do? Because I know that some artists, they're thinking about record number 7 when they put number 6.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, there's a good chunk of time between when this record was recorded and when it came out.
Sure.
And yeah, just enjoy listening to it. You know, it goes quick. I definitely want to make music I would want to listen to, you know.
I think I've always said, you know, optimal length for a record is 10 tracks, 30 minutes in and out.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's 12 on this record.
Yeah,
which is,
and just about 30. Yeah, that's really all you need.
Yeah, all you need, whack it on again. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I love the idea that you mentioned elsewhere, I think it was on a podcast, about these parental advisory type stickers that you can get, but changing it up and saying this record's intended for people over the age of 30.
Right.
You know, it's if you leave your 20-year-old self at the door. You previously said around the last record, Why Love Now, as well, that you'd rather not shy away from talking about the internet or even 2016.
Yeah.
And 2016 internet compared to now seems that's, you know, another world.
Right.
Is that like an important thing for you, do you think, to focus on the now and what's happening in the world, or?
Yeah, I guess I just want to like provide an authentic thought about what I'm experiencing. Like if I wrote a song now about waiting for someone to call me on the telephone, that seems fake and old-fashioned, you know? And I mean, there's like a rich history of punk bands who are like songs about I'm addicted to watching TV, or like I wait by the phone and no one calls, and that's because that was their reality. So when I listen to that, I don't think, oh, times have changed. I think that's cool. I know what it was like to exist as you. You're giving me a little window into this moment in time, and I would like hopefully do the same, you know, that the theme might be universal but the details will be specific, just to remember this time, you know, and what it was like for me at least. And hopefully some other people can relate either universally or like, oh yes, I was there feeling that same annoying thing about like a specific life tribute that no longer exists because technology's changed or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to think what's 2016 was the new thing. I can't even think, you know, and it wasn't even 10 years ago. I'm
sure 2024 will be quaint very soon, you know? We'll remember this time as like, oh, we still talked to each other face to face, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like there's a guy called Charlie Brooker who did the Black Mirror series.
Right.
He used to do like an annual rundown of the year, and then he just stopped doing it because it got too depressing.
Right.
And it was like you expected it every year, and then it was like, which was probably around 2016. So obviously there was 7 years between the last record and this record. So if we were going on that metric as well, what in the world could you expect to be 2031 in piss jeans and in your your world?
Well, hopefully there's no more global pandemics in this time. That definitely slowed us down by at least a year and a half. Besides that, yeah, I don't know. I hope that we can still talk about like music being made by musicians, at that point. This is still something that might entertain people, is a person having a thought with their friends and then translating it via live instruments, And I'm sure that will sound very old-fashioned soon when we're just able to dream up, whatever we want and plug it in and have some sort of facsimile of it come out. So yeah, I'm thankful that people still want, original music by people at this point.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah, no, I'm truly, when they can have, I want a new Taylor Swift album about me and my boyfriend, and the computer spits it out with stunning accuracy, that's coming, I think.
I mean, that sounds pretty good, to be fair.
Yeah, right?
A Taylor Swift album about me and my partner sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the last record, as we were talking about it, I'm a Man, penned and performed by author Lindsay Hunter. On first listen, I thought it was just the maddest thing I'd ever heard, just because of, the drumming and the rhythm in the background against like this insane vocal delivery or spoken word delivery. Obviously, that must have been an ace collaboration to do, first and foremost.
So psyched. Yeah, I mean, well, Lindsay was like a friend of mine who I knew because I knew she was like also a Piss Jeans fan, which was so cool because I love her writing. And I know Sean just had this really cool kind of heavy drum thing that didn't seem to need like guitars or like me screaming, and it all just kind of came together. She recorded the vocals like at her house while her kids were in the other room, and she sounds like the actor from Eastbound and Down to me.
Danny McBride.
Yeah, she just sounds like a twisted Danny McBride to me.
Yeah,
I was thrilled like putting that together in the studio, which I added nothing to personally. I was so psyched, just like dancing around listening to it, because I feel like it really hit the nail on the head for what we were looking for.
I think it's that sort of thing where it's no notes, isn't it? Because it's so, it's just, on first listen, I played it to my girlfriend straight after because I was like, this is fucking mental, It's just such a cool song. Did that lead to thinking about future collaborations or?
Not really, but I mean, only just because like you nailed it. We don't need to do this again,
Sure.
Like. She should put out a record though, I mean, like, goddamn, she keeps writing books, so like, excellent, keep doing your thing. I'm not going to try to write a book, she's not going to try to write a song.
Yeah.
But it was super fun collaborating. Yeah, I mean, I know that there's been like multiple different like drag performers who've done numbers to that song,
Wow.
And I'm like, wouldn't have guessed that, but it makes total sense, and this is really cool that it's, taking on this little life in other ways.
That's really cool. I've never even thought, that connection. It was always just such a... Because obviously with the visual of the record sleeve, it's, it goes so hand in hand. Have you heard of anything where your stuff has ventured out like that in the past, or...?
That was definitely, the only thing that people have performed to. I mean, people have covered our songs, which is like nothing crazy, but boy, is that nice to know, like,
yeah.
That feels like, oh wow, we wrote something that someone else wanted to play. Like, how cool, would have never dreamed,
Yeah, I mean, that Sauna Youth cover that came out a decade ago, maybe.
Yeah, no, they put a great spin on it.
Total pop.
Yeah.
And pop spin, yeah. So I was listening to the podcast you did, Turned Out a Punk.
Yeah.
And I thought it was refreshing that you talked about working regular jobs and doing Piss Jeans as something that was still fun, and it wasn't about just doing record tour. And yeah, I just thought that was so refreshing to hear it, that it was an art project that was ongoing. Do you think that's important to the longevity? Because as you said before,
for sure. I mean, we've been on the road for like 7 days now, and it's just like, it's been so smooth and perfect, and it's also harrowing, and I'm ready to go home, just to get back to normal life, more of a comfortable, lifestyle. I can't imagine having to do this and also having to worry about like show going metrics and like where the song is big and how do we break into a market. Like it would just make the whole thing kind of sour for me when it's so much fun. And I feel like people can tell we're like truly happy to be here. We're not just dependent to be here, you know, like this isn't just a motion we're going through. It's like kind of, I mean, I'm using vacation days from work to come here, you know, and like thrilled to do it. So,
and that seems like, you know, a certain level of like artists when they're using vacation time and, you know, they're maybe finishing early on a Friday so that they can do a weekend tour. That to me, there's almost like a romantic, you know, nature to that, isn't there? I don't know.
It's like what could be better than hanging out with your friends who all feel the same way about like making music together and just getting to hang out with them is like a treat, you know, because we all hang out here and there, but we all have like busy lives, I suppose, you know, stuff that just takes up our time. So getting to hang like this and playing music and meeting people and kind of feeling like a group of close buds, it's a really nice feeling. Yeah. And I could see it wearing thin after like week 12, you know, of nonstop on the road. So we'll probably never do that. I think that's safe to say, but definitely we have no plans to stop either, you know? It's not like we don't have a goal of X number of records sold or we're breaking up. It's, you know, we're going to just keep doing it as long as we physically can, I guess.
Is it not the other way as well? So we haven't sold any records this time around.
Yeah, I mean, that will be a bummer, you know, if and when.
Really,
I mean, no one endlessly goes up, right? I mean, I remember hearing about like, you know, David Bowie opening for Nine Inch Nails and no one caring about him in the 90s. You know, like, there's no band. I mean, you know, I guess the Rolling Stones maybe, but like no one considers them the way they did 30, 40 years ago. It's just impossible.
It's more than a music show, isn't it?
Yeah, by the nature of music, you don't endlessly get more popular. So enjoy it, right? You know, and you can't, it's like aging. You can't just endlessly prevent it. That's, you know, you're just going to stress yourself out and be miserable. And it's costly, you know, all the facial reconstruction and whatnot.
I mean, I don't know how much you're getting paid tonight at the Brudenell, but I imagine facial reconstruction is possibly...
No, we should probably save up, I guess, and just come back with new faces. That could be a treat for the audience, you know.
That does seem a very Piss Jeans thing to do as well. So, I recently got into a band, I don't know if you've heard of them, called VR Sex.
Yeah, members of Drab Majesty, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I hate listening to them or Googling them on my work laptop for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Looking back, or rather, do you ever look back on Piss Jeans and consider, you know, maybe it would have been different if we hadn't been this?
The band name is terrible. Yeah, I regret it. I don't know how, you know, I don't know, it's like sometimes the nickname you don't want is the nickname that sticks. My only solace is that it just sounds like syllables to me now. If you sit and think about what Gorilla Biscuits is, I think it's like monkey poop. But to me, that's also just syllables now, so it doesn't make me feel bad. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just things turn out funny sometimes.
Is that, I assume that's the question you get asked the most about?
It used to be when we were coming up, you know, like, I guess people wouldn't think of like drunken mayhem, like, and I'm sure there's been some of that, but it's certainly not who we are. Like, Brad, for example, doesn't drink. Randy's been sober for a year now. Sean and I will imbibe here and there. So it's just, like, funny. I remember some French interviewer saying, you guys are the drunkest band in Pennsylvania, right? And I guess that's just an interesting perception because we're really not drunk, you know?
Yeah.
We've been exceptionally not drunk for many years now.
Yeah. I suppose if you take things very literally, Piss Jeans is more than just being drunk as well. It's
right, yeah. I mean, I
concerning.
Don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
It did make me laugh on my way here as well. Like, I spoke to my dad on the phone and he was like, what are you up to tonight? I was like, I'm off to Leeds. And he was like, right, who's that you're off to see? And I was like, Pissed Jeans? And he was like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think I overcame the name once we had to say it entering Canada to like the border customs people who were like, what's your name? And you pissed jeans and, just wallowing and wishing it wasn't that and just being like, well, it is that. So
Yeah.
we'll take it.
And the agent saying, like, get out of the car.
Yeah, right.
That's great, Matt. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Andy.